We're going to talk about Hagar today. She had just run away from her mistress, Sarai. And the angel of the Lord found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring that is beside the road to Shur. And he said, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? I'm running away from my mistress Sarai, she answered. When the angel of the Lord told her, go back to your mistress and submit to her, the angel added, I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count. This was an example of a theophany. A theophany is a theological term that refers to an encounter with God prior to Christ's incarnation. In other words, this was Jesus appearing to Hagar, and the term angel of God, it doesn't say Jesus Christ, but you know from the text and from what is said and what happens that it definitely was Jesus. He asks a question, and now Jesus is always asking questions, and the Jewish people very much like that as well. Jesus asks questions like a surgeon uses a scalpel to cut right into the heart and to open up new understanding for us. And this is what he asks. Where have you come from? And where are you going? Now, being Jesus, he knows exactly where she's come from and where she's going. It's the same as when he asked Moses on top of the mountain. He said, what is that you're holding in your hand? Moses is holding his staff. Now, Jesus was right there. You could see that Moses was holding a staff. But he was wanting Moses to think deeply, to understand what really was going on inside his heart. And it's the same thing here. Where have you come from and where are you going? You know, I don't know how long that Hagar had been living with Abram and Sarai as a slave girl, but she certainly knew God's ways. She would have been there when in Genesis 14, when God, another example of a theophany, when God and two angels arrived at the tents near Mamre, and Abram ran out to meet them and bowed low and said, please come in. And he chatted with the Lord, and then Jesus / God prophesied that Sarah would have a child this time next year. And then Abram walked with them and to a place that overlooked the town of Sodom and Gomorrah, and had that deep conversation about, you know, if there are so many in the town, then I won't destroy it, and all of that. But all of that points to the fact that this was God. So Hagar had gone through all of this, and clearly she'd lost her way. I mean, look, things were bad. You know, she was, in a sense, being abused. It was not what she signed up for. You know, she probably had a rough time anyway, because she's a slave. She'd been sold to these people, didn't know them, had to say goodbye to her family, whom she'd probably never see again. And now the family that she's with are making life unbearable for her. And she decides to run away instead of running to God. But, you know, God is so merciful. He met her there at that spring. You know, she was running to find the true water source. And he met her there. And just like that Samaritan woman, he is the water of life. It's just amazing, the parallels. And he meets her and he says, where have you come from? Where are you going? In other words, probably getting her to look deeply at this whole thing and say, who am I? Why are you running when you know that I'm in control of everything, and that I have a hope and a future for you, and that I have plans for your life, and that I am sovereign and I am in control of things? So you don't have to try and do this all on your own. And then he goes and prophesies about Ishmael, that your descendants will be so numerous. You see, only God can do that. So he gives her a little bit of comfort and hope as well. And in effect saying, I know what I'm doing, girl. And then he says, go back to your mistress, repent. Don't try and do this on your own. Don't run away and try and build your own water reservoirs. One of the scriptures in the Old Testament says that. We mustn't dig our own cisterns. We must find the living water, and that is Jesus. And he encourages her to go back and to repent, to do the right thing and come back under the authority of Abram and Sarai and trust her future to God. He can handle it. He's got her. So just to encourage you today. We've just been talking about Hagar and who she met at the well. But if we go into this next section, you will see that there were quite a few people who met with the pre-incarnate Son of God, with Jesus Christ himself, here in the Old Testament. Let's have a good look at what this is.